Welcome to Chok Muay Chats. I'm not sure what episode it is, but I tell you what, it is a new year. I'm Joe Comerford, a content creator, commentator on RWS, and a plethora of other shows here in Thailand. This is where we talk about everything Muay Thai, anything and everything Muay Thai. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. YouTube and Spotify is where you'll find these episodes. It's a new year. We're trying to get them out every single week. Conversations about everything Muay Thai. Today, I'm talking about developing Muay Thai from scratch. I'm here with two gentlemen who are doing big things. Even though they might not think it's big things, it is certainly big things in the right direction. I think the future in Muay Thai is coming from the USA, and small steps lead to big actions. From little things, big things grow. If you're from Australia, you'll know that song, Paul Kelly, from Little Things, Big Things Grow. And it's starting with these two gentlemen right here. So I'm sitting here with Matt and Ben from DMV Muay Thai. Now, Matt and Ben, welcome to the podcast, to Chok
Thank
Muay
you.
Chats.
Thanks for having us.
It's my pleasure to have you guys on. I spoke to Ben at the WBC convention last year, and we were talking about some of the things you guys are doing to help grow the scene in the DMV area. For those who don't know, can you guys talk a little bit about what DMV means to you?
Sure. Can I jump in? So, for those who aren't familiar with the local region, DMV just basically stands for DC, Maryland, Virginia. Basically, the surrounding area around Washington, D.C. Now, originally, that just encompasses the direct region around D.C., Washington, D.C., the state capital where everybody's favorite president lives. And but we kind of extend that region out to encompass most of Maryland or all of Maryland and the wider Virginia areas, because we have a lot of gyms and athletes training and coming up around the whole area, so we want to make sure we include everybody.
Yeah.
Matt, do you have anything else to
Say, like, if you're not familiar with where DC is relative to other cities, we're about four hours south of New York. We both live near Baltimore, which is about 45 minutes north of DC. And then Virginia is a pretty big state, so if you drive 4 hours south, you'll go through Virginia and hit North Carolina. So it's a pretty big area, but there are a ton of athletes at this area, a ton of great gyms, and we're producing a lot of great athletes. I'll say prior to very recently, there was no opportunities to actually compete in our state, in the state of Maryland. DC had a couple shows a few years back, but that's kind of died off. And then there's some in Virginia, but we've always had to travel to compete to either tournaments throughout the country or get on shows in New York, which is tough because it's a drive, and we don't, you got to sell tickets. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the things I was about to ask you is, what the Maryland DMV scene looked before you guys, started putting things into action. I mean, one of the biggest roadblocks, I suppose, for American Muay Thai is, the commissioning bodies in the different states. A lot of people don't know this, especially in Australia, that every single state has their own sporting commissioning body. And for the longest time, Muay Thai was not legal in a lot of these states. It's only been really, really like recently over the last kind of 10 years where a lot of states have started to legalize Muay Thai. I mean, boxing had such a hold on it. And then, of course, with the dawn of the UFC and MMA, there was kind of a lot of like political division between the different sporting commissioning bodies in different states. So what was the Maryland DMV scene like before you guys started?
Well, specifically, Maryland in particular is the state where we've made the biggest impact. As Matt mentioned earlier, there's been some activity in DC and still ongoing in Virginia. There's a couple small local events, but just due to the nature of the geography, the traffic, even just for us Marylanders to get to Virginia, it can be a bit cumbersome. So uh, we've worked with closely the Maryland Athletic Committee to push forward some of these rules to start promoting amateur Muay Thai, and more recently passing the rules for professional Muay Thai. Matt, if you want to add anything further, please.
Yeah, it was pretty frustrating over the years. Just everybody would say, "Well, we can never get it done. We can never get it done." And then about 2 years ago, we got a new head commissioner, and one of the members on the athletic commission gave up their seat. I don't know how that worked exactly, but we got a new member, and he was an MMA fighter. He fought on the first pro MMA card in Maryland, so he was very helpful in getting us to get the rules changed. So it was a lot of going to the meetings, going to the Zoom meetings, going in person, emailing, getting letters written, just showing up every month. And dealing with the commission was tough because it was something they didn't know anything about, and they already have a lot on their plate with other sports, boxing, professional wrestling, and they actually had kickboxing rules written, but that was like the pants kickboxing from the 80s. So, but none of the really members knew anything about Muay Thai. So we had, I had one of the meetings, Patrick Rivera, who's the president of WBC Muay Thai USA, came to the meeting with us, and they helped us with the rules. We showed them all the different events around the world, the WBC tournaments, and we gave them the rules and showed them that it can be done safely with the amateurs. And as time went on, we made some headway and finally got things passed. And then,
What
go ahead, please.
if you don't mind me asking, what are some of the rules that had to change to allow these events to move forward?
Well, the amateur, they just kind of changed their position and told us that the WBC could sanction events as long as now they show up to all of our events that we run and kind of just make sure we're following the rules that are written. But once they said that they're not going to get involved, that gave us the opportunity to just go ahead and run events. And pro, it took they had to change the law. So they took some different organizations' rules, they looked at them, and they had lawyers involved. And then finally, a couple months back, the governor signed off on it. So
Do you feel it? Do you feel it's one of those things? It's the fear of the unknown, for them to push these things forward. Because I mean, traditionally, like as we said, boxing was kind of what had its foot in the door from the get go with the sporting commissions, and then MMA. I imagine historically probably took a long way. I mean, if you look back, back in the 90s, there was a big pushback against the UFC when it was starting to get its wheels moving. Do you feel it's just like one of those things, it's the fear of the unknown for Muay Thai?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure if it's a fear of the unknown, but maybe an unfamiliarity,
Mm.
and trying not to just, you know, these people in these positions, it's their job to kind of gatekeep in a way, if you will, and not just let everything through.
Mm.
And as Matt mentioned, in recent history, when one of the committee members that is an evolved mixed martial artist and a local mixed martial arts hero got shout out to Binky Jones. He got on the committee, so he was able to kind of educate his team on, if we can do MMA, there's really there's nothing in Muay Thai that is gonna, that is gonna be more dangerous or more inappropriate or unnecessary, that we shouldn't allow this as well.
I think also, like, let's say you just Google Muay Thai, you're going to get a highlight video of people getting elbowed and knocked
Yeah.
unconscious and scissor kicked, like on RWS, right? But the events that we're running, amateur, it's full gear, headgear, shin guards, elbow pads. It's a lot safer than that. So we had to kind of educate them on what we're actually trying to do. That's not what we want. We don't want kids and brand new athletes with 0, 1, 2, 3 fights going out there full rules Muay Thai. We're not. This is not Thailand, so we're trying to grow the sport safely as well. So hopefully they. Well, I mean, I think they saw that it can be done safely, and so we just had to educate them, and I think we were able to do that. So got it done.
Now, you guys are, slowly building. You said you've done about four amateur events so far, right? Do
The
you
fourth
feel
coming up
the
shortly? Yeah, 3 completed.
fourth coming up? What are some of the perhaps maybe some of the early mistakes that you feel that you've made, like maybe in terms of like venues, maybe matchmaking or expectations, that you feel maybe you can let other people know to avoid early on if they're looking to start amateur pathways in their states?
You got anything?
Okay. For us, the best thing we did, I don't know, mistakes, I'm not really sure, but some of the best things we did was just focus on the local athletes from the local gyms. We're not so we weren't so worried about getting the best fighter from 5 states away or from California. We got a lot of good athletes in this area, and they just weren't getting the recognition. So we're giving them the opportunities on our show, which is a small show. It's in a gymnasium. It's not a lot of lights and everything, but we're giving them the platform, and now their careers are going to start to grow. So that's really what one of the good things we did is just focus on our local talent in our region, and it's also a lot cheaper than flying people out and hotels and all this stuff. Now, also we don't have pro, so we don't have to pay anybody, so that's kind of helpful. But we also have so much guidance from all the other people in the WBC, and I'm copying everything I see from the better promotions in the states as far as the social media, because that's what's really working for them, and we're also not making matchups that are like one-sided. We want all the matchups to be even. So you might, I don't necessarily want highlight reel knockouts for a 0-0 fighter versus a 0-0 fighter. I'd rather it be a 3-round technical decision. So
Yeah, just to jump on that, like you mentioned, it would have been easy to make the mistake of trying to go too big too fast, putting a lot of production behind it or trying to get bigger names. But as Matt was talking about, we kept it simple and we kept it local, and we just focused on the quality of the fights and getting those fighters, some good experience. And I think that's what's led to, a lot of positive experiences, positive feedback, and more people that want to get involved, because they see it's about the competition and the fights, and of course having good effective judges and referees and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I love that kind of the philosophy and the worldview there of building the local scene, building your athletes from the bottom up, and making sure that instead of just getting the hype, which I think a lot of Western promoters suffer from, is trying to build the hype around their promotion, is actually just getting fights that you want to see, and developing the athletes and just getting good, nice technical Muay Thai which I think is really going to benefit the US long term, as opposed to kind of just building complete hype around fighters, and just getting good solid matchups, making sure that the fighters get their rounds in, as opposed to just getting, as you said, the highlight reel knockouts, like like we saw on we saw last night, and making sure that they get those rounds in. So I really love that outlook. Like for you guys, what do you think amateur Muay Thai should look like? Like what makes good amateur Muay Thai?
Some having fighters that understand, even if they're not able to perform at a high level, but they understand, the skills, the attributes, and the techniques of the sport. The general idea of how to score and how to win, because it's so common that fighters get thrown into their first bout. It might commonly in our region, it's often a smoker or two, or maybe it's jumping into a tournament, and you commonly just see, really honestly, just ugly brawling, right? And
Yeah.
and it's so with this platform, people are starting to pay attention to the purity and what it actually is. Again, there's with other events out there, oftentimes it's a lot of for example, MMA fighters or MMA gyms that want to get striking experience, but they're not really performing Muay Thai, and we're trying to kind of create that lane for people to get into, if that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that's a really important part. Education is the key to all this. Making sure that people are actually fighting Muay Thai and they're educated about the rule set. Because Australia has suffered from the same in the past, where you get a mix of different stylists coming in, and especially with the MMA guys coming into, and there's nothing wrong with that, of them trying to get the striking experience, but they also need to know when they're coming into Muay Thai, they're fighting under Muay Thai rules, so they can't just expect that fighting the MMA style is going to win them that fight. They're fighting under Muay Thai rules, so they have to understand that this is Muay Thai scoring, and I really like that. So talking about the safety aspect of it in different parts of the world, and I think this is one big thing that Muay Thai has lacked, is consistency worldwide, because you've got so many different commissioning bodies worldwide, in Europe and in Australia, in New Zealand, in America, Canada. There's no kind of one global standard. And I think the WBC has been working really hard to kind of cement that consistency worldwide. And I think we're starting to really get there. I think the breaking point, really was the Amazing Muay Thai World Festival a couple of years ago at Lumpini Stadium, where we started to really see consistency worldwide. Now, in terms of in the States, you've got Patrick Rivera, who's doing a really good job of, building the MDL league. In terms of amateur Muay Thai, what are the safety precautions that athletes are put in? Like, are they just headgear? Are they wearing chest plates? Are they wearing shin guards as well? What's the base for safety for amateur athletes in DMV?
So, we actually also run MDL events in Maryland. So we have one this weekend, and I think that's been a huge way to grow not only the education of the athletes, but to get the referees and judges experience, so that everybody's on the same page. So we ran a couple referee courses along with the MDLs, and then that training is constant throughout the MDL. So all the judges and referees that are on our cards are certified through the WBC and get constant education by head officials. We have Pete Peterson, Mike Weber, and these are really, really experienced referees, and we also have referees from that work all the WBC events. So it's very consistent as far as what scores, what wins fights. So that kind of has the athletes start to pay attention to that, and through the MDLs, and they start to change their game to kind of like their game is what scores. So then, as far as safety equipment, we always, so the MDLs are full gear, and then the kids are no head contact under 12 years old, and it's light head contact over 12. So very strict about that. And then on our MTech events, it's full gear for everybody, no chest protectors, except for the kids wear chest protectors still up to a certain age. And then once athletes have reached a certain amount of experience, they can start taking off some of the gear. But so they take off headgear, and then they take off shin guards eventually when they have 10 plus fights. They can take off shin guards, and they always keep the elbow pads as long as it's amateur. So
Yeah, it's very
And we have
much.
those.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
you go, Ben.
No, I was just gonna say we just have those divided up into classes: A class, B class, C class,
Okay.
depending on number of fights.
Yep. Yeah. So very much like the UK system, where you have the class system and you gradually take it off. And I really like that because instead of throwing people in deep waters, back in say 15 years ago, amateur Muay Thai in some states in Australia was virtually just professional Muay Thai. You just didn't get paid for it. So yeah, I like that the gradual kind of pathway, especially for kids. You only get one computer in here, and I'll tell you what, my system needs a bit of an update. Being punched in the head too much, but I like the fact that the WBC is putting so much emphasis on protecting young athletes and the gradual step up by taking off some of the gear and having the class system as well. I think it's the right move forward in terms of amateur Muay Thai. Now, just looking at amateur to professional and looking at the way things are starting to move in the US, we're starting to see more professional athletes start to break through, and how fighters are starting to progress through the NDL and then more amateur shows, not only just regionally but nationally. Why do you think regional and national titles, why national titles, so regional and national titles matter psychologically for athletes?
Well, if the titles are held to a certain standard, right? Again, we're gonna keep talking about WBC because that's who we're working with. They've put out very clear standards and expectations for what qualifies a fighter to fight for a regional title or a national title. To have a certain number of fights, to have a certain amount of activity recently, to hold their belt status, to defend their belt within a certain amount of time. So that gives those titles a certain value and a certain standard to where, that fighter, as well as the community at large, knows it holds weight versus kind of a random promotion putting up a belt that doesn't have any standard or expectation. So that kind of just, again, it proves to the fighter and to the community at large that fighter has taken the necessary steps and path to proceed forward on their pathway towards a professional career.
all the promotional titles, there's a promotional title in every promotion from California all the way to New York, and they're great. We always want to fight for those titles, but the WBC title, the first of all, we've had a couple of regional titles on our show and one national title. The regional title holder then fights another regional title holder from California on somebody's show, maybe in Arizona for the national title. But that's how you really grow the name of the athletes. So it's not just random people. It's somebody that is known throughout the country, and then they can that helps their career. But everybody wants all the belts they can get. But once you start getting a national title, the WBC title, for example, it's just going to help their career, and it's known. So the next person in line, once they get that title, then now they get that status as well.
Not only that, I feel like it's also good for the fans as well. You know, builds that kind of regional rivalry between the different states and different regions. So it's something good for the fans to get behind as well. Even at the amateur level, I mean, you know, like the WBC amateur titles are really sort of breaking some ground in the US, and you know, when you've got so many regions and so many states, it kind of gives the fans something to look forward to as
Yes.
well. And you know, I mean, that's a big missing part of kind of why we do what we do is, you know, really bringing something for the fans to look forward to and educate the fans. Now, just talking about the WBC, um, how did you guys start working with the WBC?
Well, I'll start because so first event I went to was in Delaware. It was called a YDL, and that was the precursor to the MDL. And Pat Rivera was there, and he was running the thing. I brought a couple kids. They competed. It was amazing. So I was like, we got to bring this to Maryland, and I emailed him, and it just wasn't happening. So he also ran these events called the Muay Thai Business Summits. So I went out to one in California with my wife. I met him. Oh, I got to know him. Matt Lucas was there. This was when he put out his first book. This was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And then they ran another one in Texas, and I brought a couple athletes, some kids. They ran that along with the MDL. And then I kept trying to get Pat to bring it to Maryland. Eventually, we just decided to run our own scrimmage, copying the format. And that's when kind of me and Ben got hooked up. We had known each other just from other stuff and out throughout Maryland, but he brought a bunch of kids to the scrimmage that we ran. Um, long
Yeah,
story
I remember now. You were going to these events, the YDLs and stuff, and I was just kind of developing a new youth program, and I was seeing what you're doing, and I'm starting to get interested and reaching out, saying, "Hey, what's this about?" And that's when we started talking about things.
So we ran to like 4 or 5, maybe 6, I think, events.
Yeah, at least I think at least six, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the last
just
one was
like
like
local
over 100 kids.
grassroots. Mm.
And then finally we got Pat to um, let us run an MDL. So we did the officials training course. We had like 30. We trained like 30 officials. We had the head of the WBC USA officials come out and do the course. We had a couple hundred athletes that weekend do the MDL, and we've been doing it for the past couple years. And we also go to all the WBC tournaments. We bring athletes to the tournaments. We do all the WBC events. We were at the event a couple weeks ago. Was it a month? It's pretty
Yeah, I think a month now.
month ago. Yeah. So we're there. Ben's daughter competed at Pan Am's. I've had a bunch of fighters at Pan Am's and the tournament in Thailand and Italy. So we're just a big part of the WBC team, and we're going to be at all the WBC events. It's done so much for, I can say, me personally. I'm sure Ben can say the same thing, but my team has got so many opportunities. Now our state has legal Muay Thai, and I think what's really happening. I don't remember what your question was at this point, but that's growing throughout the U.S. Like that story is happening in New Mexico, Texas, Florida, California, Hawaii. It's just you know growing so fast because of the organization. and they do so much to empower us to do things that maybe other organizations, they're just very top heavy, but they give us power to grow in our own region. And then we all come together at these big events and kind of like network more. And so the WBC is amazing.
Yeah, I think I mean I that's why I kind of try and position myself with them is the fact that the emphasis on grassroots development and as you said, I think the really important thing to take from that is the community based empowerment, the fact that they're working together on so many different levels, but giving the power to the community to develop athletes at just a small base level, and then coming together nationally, internationally, and then on the global scale at some of these big events. Like the amazing Muay Thai festival. Like Kevin Nguyen from WBC Muay Thai doing amazing things to bring all these different communities internationally together at these big events. I'm sure I'll see you guys in June or July over here, hopefully.
Actually, Matt's going to be one of the team coaches there, so for
Oh,
sure.
awesome. Well, yeah, the three of us have to get a photo together. Now, in terms of long-term vision for you guys with the WBC involvement, what's the overall long-term vision for you guys?
To start.
I mean, so I'll give one example. Daughter, Liliana, she started at our first scrimmage. I don't know, she was like 11 years old, right? So she's fought about something like that, right? Now she's 16 and she's an IFMA gold medalist. And I'm not saying she's going to go pro, but if she does go pro, then she's a pro and goes on to win world titles, right? So that's an individual story, but we're also going to have like the Amazing Muay Thai Festival. Hopefully we bring that to Maryland and then California and all over the country. So it's just going to be, the sport of Muay Thai is kind of a niche thing. Like if you walk down the street and ask a random person who, you know, Taiwan Chai is, they're not going to know. But only Muay Thai people, all Muay Thai people know who he is. But one day, like there's going to be there's billboards of Buakaw in Thailand all over the place. That's going to be in the U.S. for some of our athletes, hopefully. So it'll be on par with boxing or some of the other big sports.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Matt Lucas on this one, that I think the future for Muay Thai is definitely in the US, and and it's starting really to make some leaps and bounds now with the work that you guys are putting in and it just, as I said, from small things big things grow, and starting with places like the DMV, this is where the future stars happen. Now, just talking about the DMV identity, what do you think DMV Muay Thai is about? If you were to talk about your regional identity, and often in Thailand we talk about kind of, there's a regional identity, kind of Isan Muay Thai is a little bit different from the south. It's different from, the north, like the Chiang Mai area. There's kind of like a regional identity. What do you think DMV Muay Thai means?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if we have developed like, a certain style or whatever that differentiates us from other regions of the States. I think that's still very much in process. But what I can say is that, as far as I know, this is one of the first of its kind to call it a community, right? Because we're made up of a lot of individual gyms, a lot of them very accomplished gyms with great coaches, athletes that are, on the right track. but a lot of this takes place individually within each individual gym, right? So like we have the building blocks, but creating a community that, you know, allows everybody to kind of forge together and start competing together more in a more organized and more publicly known way is how we start to level up our whole region as a region.
Do you think fighters like, and I'm just going to give a shout out to Buzzsaw Joseph Grabani, who's a DMV fighter. I think an important part of getting that identity is having the experience in Thailand and fighters from your area going to Thailand and bringing that knowledge back. Do you think that's a part of it, developing that regional identity, is what happens when DMV fighters go to Thailand, they bring that knowledge back? So one really good case study is Joseph Grabani, who actually did quite well on Thai Fight. And Thai Fight, even though at the moment is kind of not where it was maybe 10 years ago. I mean, it's an pure entertainment show, but it's still tough to fight, like super tough to fight in the traditional card, Chok. You know, you gotta be pretty game to step into the ropes, you know, the roped format there, and they really push the pace on Thai Fight. And a shout out to the two commentators, Kevin Armlid and Aaron Sirisompan, great guys, and they're doing a fantastic job over there. Do you think that's an important aspect of it? Is, you know, building that kind of that identity, is pushing athletes to go overseas and get out of their backyard as well?
Absolutely. I know we've talked about this before, like when some of the big international tournaments, when the American team would come, everyone just counted it as a win. Like if you're some of the better countries, and now it's not like that. And I think that's directly related to our athletes going over to Thailand, and it's not as easy for us as, say, Australians to get over there because just you guys are much closer, and but we can name a bunch of people from our state that are doing really great things over there currently, and when they come back, then the level of the whole state goes up in the region.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, one of the athletes that fought for a regional title on our most recent event in November, shortly after he went ahead and moved to Thailand and to start his professional career, and he's now 1-0, beginning his professional career. So shout out Octavian Martin out of the House of Muay Thai in Virginia.
And there's Vince was just over there fighting on at Rajadamnern a bunch. Your buddy Joel has like 50 fights over there.
Yeah. Joel Licata.
Yeah. One of the other guys that was on our show, our second show, just fought at Rajadamnern the other day. So it's when they come back, that's a Rajadamnern Stadium veteran. It's not exactly the same as it was like if you fought at Rajadamnern 15 years ago, you had to build your way up for, 10, 12 fights to get that shot. It's a little different now, but still, like Grabani had 2 fights at Rajadamnern against, fighters probably 100 plus fights. When he fought Sayak, that he hit with over 400 fights, and it's just, you can't really get experience like that over here because nobody has that many fights. So
yeah,
that's probably like, I don't know, having 10 fights to fight Sayak. Experience wise, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's a massive part of it. People really undervalue that aspect of it, is when you're fighting, especially guys like Sayok. Sayok's a living legend. He's getting into his golden years now, but just sharing the ring with somebody like that, you can take so much away from fights like that. And as you were saying, like Rajamnan, the kind of entering that arena isn't the same as it was, say, 15 years ago. I mean, the ecosystem is totally different now, and that's due to a range of factors. I mean, Muay Thai is getting more globalized. The fact that COVID happened, so it forced the whole industry kind of upside down to think differently. So kind of the legacy changes a little bit, and the ecosystem changes a little bit. So I suppose Rajanamnern is kind of the home of Muay Thai, so the entry level is a lot easier, I suppose, because you got Raja knockout, but it's still a pathway to the big stage, which is RWS. But then you've got all the other shows, like Thai Fight, that are still going. As we were talking about, Joseph Grabani, who's been killing it over here in Thailand at the moment. A big part of why Australia is the way it is because those guys in the early years, like John Wayne Parr, did their time in Thailand, and they brought that knowledge back. And as you said, it's easier for Australia because we're geographically located much closer to Thailand, and also part of those early years was developing that relationship with Thailand, and we were able to bring so many Thai trainers over to Australia, especially on the East Coast. That was a big part of the development, probably over the last 10 years as well. But a big part of it is having those athletes go over to Thailand, get their experience, and bring that knowledge back. Now, in terms of media promotion, community growth, what are you guys doing with the DMV page? How is that building education and building a spotlight for the DMV area? What are you guys doing with the DMV page at the moment?
We're doing a few different things, but I think one of the main factors since we've launched this event is putting individual spotlights on each fighter leading up to the events. I usually do a little, 10 to 15 minute interview like them, kind of like we're doing now, and just talk about, their gym, their training, what the fight means to them, what their future plans are, that sort of thing. So that kind of just, again, it puts a spotlight on each individual fighter that their friends, their family, their gym can get behind them on and get rallied on and get shared. So that's one. No, that's a main factor. And some of the other things we're doing is basically, just spotlighting different gyms and athletes. We were just talking about athletes being in Thailand. We have, let's just say around a dozen or so local DMV athletes that are back and forth to Thailand competing and training. And so we try to make an effort to highlight some of their journeys. So, just to kind of just spotlight it, put a spotlight on it, and just highlight a lot of your content. You put a lot of really informative, straightforward, easy to follow information. And so stuff like that is great, just to, kind of streamline that into the community. There's a lot of noise, right? So people that are on, their individual social media pages might be seeing, a lot of MMA content, for example. Maybe they're a boxing fan. Maybe they're even into football, U.S. football. But when they find our page, they're going to find kind of like a clear cut, informative and community based for the DMV area, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I love that because I think it's really important to have people like yourselves who are doing it for their area and having a really palatable format for people. And you mentioned my stuff. Like the goal of my stuff is to make it really digestible for people who don't know anything about Muay Thai. That was kind of the vision it didn't start out like that, but it certainly, that's kind of the direction where it's going, is just trying to educate people and make it very digestible as to what Muay Thai is and the way to go here in Thailand. And I think that's really important. Like what you're doing within the DMV area is make it digestible. And that's how you grow things from the bottom up, and just making it really community based. Now, moving forward, what do you think is not only just for the DMV area, but where do you think American Muay Thai goes from here? I know it's a loaded question, but what do you think the future holds for, maybe start from the DMV and then we can talk about the US as a whole?
Well, I think since our athletes are able to start much younger and build up the amount of fight experience way faster than was possible 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just by the time, like, I have a student, she's 16, she has 5 fights, but she's also done, let's say, 15 MDL events, right? So by the time if she can fight 4, 5, 6 times a year plus do all the MDLs, by the time she's 20, she'll have so much more experience than would have been possible when I was starting. So now I think by the time somebody turns pro, they're basically at the end of their career.
Yeah.
They've done enough amateur fights to turn pro, but now they're 34, 35 or something like that, right? So now somebody's going to be able to turn pro at 25, maybe a little even younger, as long as the shows can put on pro fights. So and you multiply that out for all the gyms in our state and then in the country, and you're going to have just such a massive amount of talent pro with so much more experience. And I think that's why, like Matt Lucas said, that the future of Muay Thai is in the U.S. It's going to keep growing, and it's going to be exponential growth. But it's now that we're starting at such a young age.
I think that's right. That's perfect. Like that's reminds me of, one of the things that made me want to get involved teaching kids from the beginning is because I know for Muay Thai to succeed in the US, we have to get our youth exposed to it early on. And because I see the same thing that you mentioned is, people are just discovering Muay Thai, later in their 20s or even their 30s. So where are they ever going to have the foundation to go on and have a proper career? And so, yeah, now that we have MDLs, obviously, our country and our culture is not going to take easily to, putting kids in full fights. But, having something like the MDL and other similar events that are popping up, and now gyms are seeing it all comes down to money, right? Gyms are seeing a financial opportunity to create Muay Thai programs for youth. And so the more that spreads, the more that the exposure, the knowledge, the opportunity spreads, the more we're going to get kids involved, kids being active in these exhibition bouts. And eventually a number of them are going to do tournaments. Right now, tournaments are adding, more brackets for youth fighters with proper safety protocols, such as no head contact under a certain age. So all of these kids can get safe exposure to the sport early on. And just real quick, you mentioned my daughter Lily. That was really, she was my test subject to see what's possible if we get going at an early age. How what's possible. So yeah.
Well, I mean, you guys are doing amazing stuff. I mean, without being too humble, it starts with people like yourselves to build from the ground up and, just keep doing, keep the wheels rolling, and you start small to grow something big. And, in about 5-6 years time, you never know what's going to happen. You'll be doing big professional events. You know, and it starts with doing these small MDL amateur type events, and you can see what happens. You know, you never know what's going to happen. Now, just maybe a couple of more things before we close it up, because we're nearly coming up to an hour at the moment. What do you think is one thing that you guys would change nationwide to better the sport? And I know that's a loaded question, and it's a bit of kind of a clickbait question, but I think these are important things to talk about without throwing anybody under the bus or anything like that. What do you think would be something that you'd like to see change nationwide for the sport?
I, it's kind of an easy question for me, so I'll just go first. But you have a somebody now. I've done it myself. I've had a fighter with 4 fights fight for a title with no gear. I feel like that's backwards. That was actually his last fight. That guy.
Mm.
He's in the Marine Corps now, but I feel like if you push it too fast with not enough experience, it's great for the promoter to sell a full rules
Mm.
Muay Thai fight, right? But the development of the athlete kind of just it just doesn't happen. That shouldn't be happening until they have like, you know, more. Let's say I'll just be say more than 10 fights. You should be fighting for a title, even a regional, a promotional title. So slow down, let them get a lot of fights with gear on, full gear. You can fight every month if you're fighting with full gear, and then the career that they can develop over a shorter period of time, much faster than if you push it too fast. A lot of people don't want to hear that. They want to hear that's you know let these tough guys fight and with no gear. But I feel like it's not going to help grow the sport. So more gear for a longer period of time to get more experience. It would be my
Yeah, I would agree with you on that because I mean, I think this is I think this is a funny one because you get guys that have got a plethora of like promotional titles or amateur titles back in their home countries, and then they come to Thailand and they think they might be the real deal, but they get found out pretty quickly here, especially if they try and throw themselves in the deep end too early. You know, they might come on to the Bangkok circuit. You know, the Chiang Mai circuit's a lot different. I mean, that's it's good for getting your feet wet and getting a little bit of experience, but when you try and step into the Bangkok circuit, you get found out pretty quickly. And I think that's a really good point that you make. You know, not trying to jump to the top too early. You know, take your time, get your development in, and I think this is not only for athletes but for coaches as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know, I think this is kind of one of the double-edged swords of Muay Thai at the moment is people calling themselves trainers and coaches too quickly. You know, I see it time and time and time and time again is guys in their Instagram pages, they might have had maybe like 1 or 2 fights. And there's nothing wrong with this because there's some fantastic trainers in Australia who have never had a fight, but they're amazing, amazing coaches and trainers, but they've done their time. You know what I mean? They've built their resume over time of being a coach, but there's kind of a little thing at the moment is guys calling themselves trainers and coaches without really doing the development and the time. So I think that's a big part of it as well. Is instead of throwing athletes straight into title contention, development a little bit. Ben, I'll throw it over to you. What's one thing that you'd like to see change nationally in the US?
More somehow more uniformity between states and regions, sanctioning bodies, promotions, because there's so many people, we'll just call them organizations, states, organizations, all trying to do their own thing in a different way. So yeah, if the sport is truly gonna catch and move forward, we have to figure out how to create more uniformity across the board.
Yeah, I think that's a global thing as well, and I think it really comes back to looking at Thailand as the home of Muay Thai, and look at what the SAT and even within here, sometimes there's not uniformity. That there are different organizations doing their own thing sometimes. So I agree with that. Consistency across the board, and I think that's probably one thing that we're always going to find is the lack of uniformity, because people want to do their own thing, or perhaps some states or some different sanctioning bodies want their own little twist on it. But I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges that we'll probably see with the sport for the longest time, unfortunately. But that's the price we pay for the art of 8 limbs, I think. Now, one last thing before I let you gentlemen go. I know it's getting it's getting a little bit late there. First time fighters. I normally I end the show with a little piece of advice, or a little bit of general kind of advice for people. I like to get people's takes on things. For you guys, you developing a lot of first time fighters, what is one piece of advice you could give to a person having their first fight?
I'll start. Take the pressure off of winning. Get out there, get that experience. Listen to your coach and try to put your best skills forward, whatever that is. If you're going to be a puncher or a clincher or a kicker or whatever it may be, just focus on trying to put your skills forward. Take the pressure away from a win or a loss.
That's a perfect answer. I like that.
All right, so you'll say the same as Ben, Matt?
Yeah, I mean,
perfect.
There's a term for it, but it's like you don't have to worry about the result. It's actually the work that you put in, and just trying to do what you were trained to do, and not worrying about the result. Everybody wants to win, but as long as you go out there and try to do what you're trained to do, you should be happy with that.
I think that's a really beautiful part of it. Kind of that outlook that you're talking about there, and I think that's a big missing part of Western Muay Thai. I think Westerners get so caught up in kind of the romanticization of combat sports. Trying to be a tough guy, and it's about the journey of fighting and all that sort of stuff. But like, when you train over here and you see the way that Thais train, they literally just have fun with it, and they treat it like a sport. It would be the same as playing football, and the way that they train together is just literally having fun. And especially in kind of the regional circuit, it's called Muay Puton, which is kind of the traditional provincial temple fight circuit. It's literally like going to Saturday soccer, like seeing the community together, seeing all the mums, and they're all ringside shouting, playing against each other, and just having fun with it. Have fun with Muay Thai. Doesn't have to be serious all the time. You can actually go into a fight and not, like, obviously you're going in to win, right? But also just have fun with it. Try new things out. You don't always have to go in there with the mentality of trying to knock each other's head off. Should be about self-development as well, being a better fighter sometimes. And that's why, I really like that outlook. Now, gentlemen, I just want to say a big thank you for coming on and talking a little bit about the things that you guys are doing in the DMV area, Maryland, Virginia, Washington, DC. You know, small things happen when, you know, gentlemen like yourself are putting the work in. And as I said, from big things, small things grow. And I want to say thank you for coming on for the first episode of the year for Chok Muay Chats. Maybe before the World Muay Thai Festival, maybe we can jump on again and have a little bit of a chat on to see how things have developed over the last, well, then it'll be the last 6 months, but precursing to that, we can talk about, you know, what's happened over that 6 months to the lead up to the World Muay Thai Festival. So big thank you to Matt and Ben from DMV Muay Thai, doing big things in the US. I mean, you guys might not think it's big, but, you know, as I said, from big things, small things grow. So thank you very much for your time. Where can people find you guys online?
Well, first and foremost, you called it DMV Muay Thai, DMV_Muay Thai on Instagram. We're also starting to put more content on YouTube, also under the same name. And you can find Matt and myself also through that channel. East Kogan Dojo Muay Thai, Blipov. You'll find it through that channel on DMV Muay Thai. But again, Joe, thank you. It's been a real honor and a pleasure. Again, our world feels very small, and to meet you there at the WBC convention and to get this opportunity to chat with you on your page, on your podcast, it's truly a pleasure, and we're honored for the experience. And yeah, in a few months, if we talk again, you know, we're constantly working on new things and developments. So hopefully we'll have some more to share with you at that time.
Awesome.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
No worries. No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. You know, it's awesome to see good people doing good things for the sport, developing young athletes. And that's a real passion of mine is, you know, grassroots Muay Thai, seeing the way that this sport, you know, and not only just this sport, but sport changes people's lives. It channels positive energy into something, you know, taking a lot of broken people and you know, it doesn't always just fix them, but it gives them a positive channel to channel their energy into. And Muay Thai is such a powerful way to channel your energy into something meaningful. So, gentlemen, thank you. You may not think it, but you are changing people's lives. You're changing kids' lives. And it's a really, really, really important thing as to what you're doing. And even if it's on a small scale to start with, you're making a global impact, one MDL show at a time. And even in your gyms, one kid who's having their first fight, whether they're having their first fight or their first 10, you're making a big impact on the world. So thank you for doing what you're doing and keep on going. And I'll be watching DMV Muay Thai online and seeing what you guys are doing over the next 6 months. And I hope to see you guys in Thailand in, I think it's, I'm not sure, is it June or July? June. The amazing Muay Thai festival here. I believe it's at Rajadamnern Stadium. I think.
I know the opening ceremony and other stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think some of the ceremonial stuff will be there. I'm not sure exactly where the tournament venue is, somewhere in the vicinity.
Yep. Awesome. Yep. So I'll see you at my second home, Rajadamnern Stadium, in June. So thank you, gentlemen. You can check out this episode on Spotify and YouTube. This is Chok Muay Chats. Please subscribe because it really helps out the channel and gives me a little bit of boost in motivation to keep the podcast going. And some people like it. Even if it gets 50 views, doesn't matter. At least 50 people are listening.